Hello there, my name is Kristian Catalano. I am the owner of CryoHelpers, an organization that helps cryotherapy centers and spas all over the world grow and be more successful. I'm also the host of the top-rated CryoHelpers podcast and your host today on today's episode of the CryoHelpers COVID Care Package. This podcast is designed to help you out with some good ideas that can help you navigate your business through this pandemic. And today I have with me Kyle Jones, the CEO of iCRYO Cryotherapy. Now, just before we get started in this interview, the audio is a little bit scratchy for the first few minutes, but it does get better as it continues. So I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to go ahead and get into the interview. Enjoy. Kyle, how are you doing today among all this chaos?
Doing well. Obviously, the world is in a different place, but iCRYO is still trucking along in a positive track, and the company as a whole is doing well.
Yeah, and tell me a little bit about your background. For those of you, or for the people who don't necessarily know, how long have you been in this industry, and what have you done? Obviously, you've built iCRYO, but for those of you who don't already know, tell me a bit about your background and your history and how you got started.
Yeah, most definitely. So in 2012, I was pursuing my doctorate program. I was pursuing my doctorate in physical therapy. I love rehab. I love the way the body works. I love the way the body heals. Just doing the right things for it. And so it was very attracting to me as to see myself in a career position to be a physical therapist and help people through that rehab program. I was actually I was about midway through my doctorate program, and I was gaining some off-site outpatient clinical hours at an outpatient PT clinic here in Houston, and I stumbled across cryotherapy from a patient of mine. I was treating a patient. I remember it to this day like it was yesterday, and he had talked to me about how he had done cryotherapy in another state. And this was back in 2012. And it really just doing research around it, understanding it, and looking at the science behind it. It consumed me. I became extremely passionate about cryotherapy almost immediately within that very first year of finding it. And I knew that it was something that I was destined to be a part of. And so I actually stopped. I stopped my doctorate program. I exited school and I pursued cryotherapy full on.
Gotcha. And then here we are in 2020, and you have successfully built, iCRYO, which is incredible. And that experience was really awesome because I felt the exact same way, different circumstances. But what you were saying, how you took cryotherapy head on, and then you were just instantly passionate about it. That it just took you over. That's very funny because that's exactly the same way I describe how I got into cryotherapy. It was something that I knew nothing about until I tried it myself, and then I was just overwhelmed by passion by it, and kind of like how you did. I dropped everything. I was doing. I had another digital marketing agency at that time, and this was about in 2018. I believe the summer of 2018. And when I discovered cryotherapy, I knew that this was for me. I was going to do everything that I can. So I researched like no one else has ever done before. I'd researched more on cryotherapy than I had ever done for any research paper, anything, through school or really just anything. Like I studied cryotherapy and I fell in love with it. I truly did. And I dropped everything. I dropped all of my clients. I was like, okay, yeah, I'm starting over. I wanted to just focus on cryotherapy. And, that's exactly what I did. I gave the cryotherapy industry my all and every day. And so as of today, how many of I know you said that your doors are open. How many locations are still open?
So we actually have two of our locations were deemed essential in their respective cities. And so all of our other locations, just based on the executive orders that were done in that state or that county or that city, have closed temporarily due to the coronavirus issue. But we've kept two of our locations open, one of them being here in Houston. It's our corporate location, and the other one being in Fort Lauderdale, which is in South Florida.
Right. And how did you go about getting those locations approved as essential? Was it something that, they just said, "Hey, don't worry, you guys are essential," or, what did that process look like in order to get that approval? And then is there anything that you keep that, not necessarily rating, but, to be classified as essential? Is there anything, what did you do to get that? And is there anything that you have to do to keep that?
Yeah, I think, well, honestly, I think the one thing you have to understand as a cryotherapy center owner, the services that we provide can help people in this time of need. I mean, I would say 80% of the cryo centers, 80% of the services that we offer in our cryo centers are there to boost the immune system, are there to give people a better way of living, right? To
Right.
feel good, to look good. So for you, the cryo center owner, if you don't believe wholeheartedly that you should be open during this time period, there's something wrong, right off the bat. And so the one thing that I've always told people, and I get kickback on this all the time, is why are you still open? Why are you not telling your employees to stay at home? And to be honest with you, I did. I gave my option I gave the option to my staff. If they'd like to stay at home and self quarantine, by all means, feel free to do so. But just like the passion I have and the belief I have for our services, my staff had that exact same vision. And so they decided to say, hey, no, we want to serve our community. We want to be here. We want to help these people out. Are we going to implement certain protocols to make sure that we're sanitizing, we're wearing face masks and gloves and doing all the CDC recommendations? Of course, we're going to do that. But the one thing we did in League City, Texas, which is where our corporate location is located, we contacted the mayor directly. So we kind of said, hey, we understand that Galveston County, which is the county that we reside in, the executive order was placed to stay at home and for non-essential businesses to close. I went directly to the mayor of the city himself. He looked at our website, he looked at our services. I gave him an explanation of why we needed to stay open and why our services benefit people in this time of need. And so he deemed our corporate location to stay open. Now, in Fort Lauderdale, it was a little bit different. Broward County, which is the county that Fort Lauderdale is in, they actually went from small business to small business to small business and physically walked inside of most of the doors of the businesses there. When they came into our location, we did the exact same thing. We showed them the services that we offer. We explained the benefits behind these services. We didn't make any medical claims. Obviously, we had to stay within a realm of we're not treating, diagnosing, or curing anything, but
Right.
we did tell them the benefits of our services, and they walked out and said, hey, you guys are free to stay open. No, don't feel any need to shut down unless you want to, but they actually physically came into our location.
Gotcha. And so, of those two locations, are you guys, staying busy? How are they doing through all of this?
Yeah, actually, it's quite a testament to our franchise model. So the Fort Lauderdale location opened up in mid-February. So we're going on maybe 60 days of business operations right now. And so we opened up in the middle of this entire disaster, right? I just got the numbers for last month. They actually exceeded their pro forma that they had done pre-coronavirus. So it's an amazing testament to our franchise model that even in a global crisis, even with people staying in their houses and not spending money, our numbers are going through the roof. And it's because I think we do things a little bit different. I've seen a lot of other cryo centers kind of take this plan of action and this adopted this mindset of how to market properly. We don't market to sell, really. We market to educate. And my philosophy has always been, if you can educate the consumer why they're doing something, the benefits they're going to get from it, and have some evidence to back that up in some form or fashion, you can validate what you're doing. You can validate what they're getting. You can validate what they're going to receive from these different sessions that you're offering.
Absolutely.
And that's where your retention comes into place. And so we've not only been able to retain our clients, but driving educational ads through social media and not targeting people for just selling a package, but educating that consumer. They're actually coming from other cryo centers to ours because that education is not only there, but it's very thorough, and we back it up.
Right. Well, you kind of hinted at this earlier. Are there specific rules of operations now that you have to follow in each location? Now, obviously, there's the ones that the CDC recommend, and or well, not recommend, they require. But what kind of additional rules of operation do you guys now have to go through at both locations? And is it the same on both locations, or is it different?
Yeah, it's definitely the same. Anything we do as a company, we do company wide. So we set protocols in place, and all the franchisees have to abide by those protocols, based on the franchise contracts.
Gotcha.
But yeah, we've definitely taken some extra safety measures. We've hired air conditioning and cleaning companies to come in and clean out the AC vents, to clean out the entire ductwork, spraying disinfectant throughout the entire place. So we've done all the way from inside the AC units to inside each service room to every square inch of anything you can possibly see in each facility. We've taken measures to not only disinfect, but also to lay a coating of protectant on top of that as well. So if any type of bacteria or virus were to come in contact with that, obviously, hopefully it would do its job and kill that off. But we're scrubbing down the entire center at least a few times every single hour during business operations. We are a 7-day-a-week business, so we did do condensed hours. Based on that, every hour that we're in the center, we're disinfecting the chairs, we're disinfecting and wiping down any type of door handles or windows or anything you could possibly think of. It's something that laundry is being done actually 5 times more than before, just to make sure that everything from the socks and the gloves and the robes and the face masks and anything that we're using, we're sanitizing or cleaning more than we normally would. It's extremely hard. The one thing that the CDC did put in effect that it's almost impossible for us to do is the 6-foot rule. It's impossible to give an IV 6 feet away.
Right.
It's impossible to do a cryofacial 6 feet away.
Right.
It's impossible to do some of these things, but we do have our nurses and paramedics on staff. They are wearing the N95 face masks. We do have disposable medical face masks in the center for all of our guests to wear as well. So we're definitely, trying to go above and beyond. We want to make sure that our centers are safe. We want to make sure that our guests are comfortable. We have had, I would say, maybe 20% of our guests that are kind of said, hey, we're going to stay at home during this time period. We've obviously paused their memberships. We're not pulling any auto drafts at this point in time. But to be honest with you, I would say 70 to 80% of our guests at both locations, this is not affecting at all. They're still coming in on a routine basis. And they're doing that, in my belief, for 2 reasons. Number one, they know the brand is going to do whatever we can to make sure that it's safe, period. And number two, we've developed that relationship with these people and they trust us. And so I take that very strongly for a global crisis to be happening and for people to still trust a small business to do the right things that are necessary. I take that very personally, and I have a lot of respect for our members and our guests, and even probably more respect for our staff for making sure that these things stay in place. This is a very sensitive time. You can almost correlate this to politics. You got Democrats and Republicans going at it, right? And it can become a crazy subject. With the coronavirus, you have people that are taking this very nonchalant. It's not a big deal. It's not affecting them. But you have people that are literally taking this, like it's the Black Plague. Like, it is killing hundreds and millions of people. And they're taking it very serious. And so you have to be very cautious of how you speak to people during this time frame.
Right.
You have to be cautious of the way people feel about it, and you have to respect that, right? And so when we have conversations with our guests, the few that have said they wanted to stay home, they wanted to self-quarantine, they're not leaving their house, and they're very cautious, they're very scared, they're very worried. Number one, we acknowledge that. I'm not going to argue with a guest. I want to make sure that their comfort level is as high as possible, right? We want them to be comfortable with doing business with iCRYO. So we always tell them that we can pause their membership. The auto drafts do not come out. They will not be charged until they come back. So there's no extra fees that go along with freezing the account. But after that, we educate them about the services that we offer that can boost their immune system. And with that education, we also explain to them the extra safety precautions that we put into place to ensure that when they come in, it is a very clean, sanitary, and a very protected environment for them. We've actually made sure on a few of our guests that are very cautious about it. They don't want anybody in the building when they're there. And so we've actually booked reservations for these people when nobody else is going to be in the center. So sometimes you do have a case-by-case basis to where you have to specialize something for people in particular, right? You've got to be able to cater to some of these people that need that extra assistance or need that extra comfort level. So we're doing anything and everything we can, not to just get people in the door and kind of persuade them on education, but we're doing everything we can just to make sure that people are comfortable with where they're at. Whether they come in or whether they don't, that's fine by all means. I'm really not looking at this scenario as in we're getting money or we're losing money. To me, it's all about the guest. It's all about, are you comfortable with what you're doing? Even if you're staying home, is there anything that we can do for you to help you during this time?
I love that. Now, you guys have a multitude of different services at your iCRYO locations. Is there a specific service that most people seem to be coming in for, or is it just overall, they're coming, it's pretty much business as usual. It's pretty well scattered around in terms of what services are being used?
Yeah, I would say pre-coronavirus, our targeted services, our higher revenued services were from whole body cryo, body sculpting, and cryofacials. Those were kind of like our top three revenue generating services. Now that the coronavirus has hit, whole body cryo is still one of those top three, but instead of doing body sculpting, which can be skin to skin contact type thing, they're moving towards the immune boosting side of the equation, which is your IV therapy, your vitamin shots, your infrared sauna sessions. I haven't seen so many people do infrared sauna until about a month or two ago. Our infrared sauna is booked almost every hour on the hour, every single day. The infrared sauna, the IV infusions, and the vitamin shots are probably the top three services that people are using right now. I think whole body cryotherapy, regardless of whatever pandemic or epidemic or global crisis we go through, I always think that's going to be a top tiered service. Unless something comes out, a virus comes out where it thrives off of cold or something like that, whole body cryo is always going to be a go-to for really anything. So that outside of whole body cryo, I think it's transitioned from body sculpting and cryofacials over to the vitamin shots, the IV infusions, and the infrared sauna.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. And now, have you had to shut down any specific treatments? Like, do you still offer body contouring, or since that is, a bit close and personal, you guys have kind of, turned all that off, or is there any other specific treatments that you guys don't necessarily do anymore, or they're just not as popular, but you still offer them?
So as a company, when all this kind of took effect a couple months ago, we stopped doing the cryotoning facials, right? That was just you were getting too close to the face, right? Too close to the mouth and the nose and the eyes. So we stopped doing toning facials. The one service that we are continue to do, just because it's a hands-free option, is the cryoslimming, the static version with the CryoSkin, the 4.0 edition.
Right.
It's techless, right? You don't have a specialist touching the consumer. So you're able to hook up those static heads and to operate that cryoslimming session without a tech even being in the room. And so we're actually still selling a lot of cryoslimming sessions even to date. I get company updates every single day about how our locations are doing, what the sales were, where the sales were coming from different services. And right now, even up till yesterday, the reports I got last night, we're still selling cryoslimming, the static version of those sessions. So I would definitely say we've tiered down a little bit, right? We're not doing the toning facials or the cryotoning sessions for body sculpting, just because it's a little bit too much contact from the tech to the consumer. But as far as the other services, we're still blowing and going real positive.
So what we're having our partners do, the ones that have their doors closed, what we're actually having them do is we're having them take this time, we're having them re-educate themselves on either our trainings that that we provide here at CryoHelpers, but we also recommend them books, because we believe education is key here. That's something that I have, that's just a mantra, I guess, if you'll call it, something that I've had since as far as as early back as I can remember. I've always had just a passion for learning, and so I always recommend new books for my partners and have them. And so what we're actually having them doing is we're having them and their staff recenter. We're using this time to regroup and to just go over all the basics and just pretty much iron out our strategies and operations together with our partners. And then in their spare time, which they have a decent amount of nowadays with their doors being closed, we're actually having them educate themselves through suggested books. So I was just wondering if there's anything that the other iCRYO locations that are unfortunately are closed down, if there's there anything that you're having them do during this very awkward time.
Yep. So the locations that are the other 7 locations that are closed down, that are currently open, but they're forced to be closed. We still have our weekly meetings. They still have their weekly marketing meetings. They still have their weekly operations meetings. They still have their strategy meetings. Right now, since they have a little bit more time on their hands, right? They're not operating the location. Those meetings are a little bit longer. So normally we plan each quarter out at a time. So when we start Q1, we're already strategizing for Q2. We start Q2, we're already strategizing for Q3. We're actually taking this time to strategize the remainder of the year. So each location has been tasked operationally, from a marketing perspective, everything that makes the business a business, whether that be financials or whatever. They're planning out the rest of the year for their respective locations. With the locations that are currently not open, we have about 20 or so that are in some type of lease negotiation, site selection, or construction phase.
Right.
Luckily, construction is still deemed an essential business in most of the states, I think, besides New York. New York and California are the 2 that kind of stopped retail construction. But we're still moving forward to construction in multiple cities right now. We've got Cincinnati, we've got Indiana, we've got Dallas, we've got Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, all of our locations that are currently in lease negotiation or construction. We're still moving along. I've told, I was on the phone with all of our franchisees this last weekend. We're actually moving faster than we were before. I think a lot of people are scared during this time. If they're in construction or they're negotiating a lease, they've actually kind of pumped the brakes. They paused. Me personally, I think it is now a tenant's game. Prior to coronavirus hitting, the landlords held the torch, right? They were making the calls. Now they're begging people to get into leases because they're scared that they're not going to have people sign leases. So we're actually going back to the drawing board. We're becoming a lot more aggressive on our lease negotiations. We're getting a lot more tenant allowance money. We're getting a lot more free rents, a lot more build out time. We're moving actually faster now than we were before. I'm pushing all of our franchisees to not be scared to open, because there's one thing that I think everybody's going to get out of this pandemic that's going around. The positive thing that I can see from it is everybody is now more self-aware of why they should be spending their money on wellness-related services. So when the world gets back to a norm, right, whenever that happens, people are going to be spending their money on bettering their health. People are going to be spending their money on wellness services. They're going to be spending their money on how to enhance their lifestyle, how to elevate their lifestyle, how to better their health. So that way, if this were to ever happen again, they know that they're a healthy human being and they don't have room to be scared. Right. I think a lot of the people that are worried right now are the people that aren't healthy. To be honest, the coronavirus is very similar to the flu, or very similar to any other aggressive respiratory infection. If you have a strong immune system, if you're able to fight it off, which I know many people have. I got a buddy that lives in California. His 9-year-old son caught the coronavirus three weeks ago. They just tested him a week ago, and he tested negative. He beat the coronavirus, a 9-year-old kid.
Right.
And it's because the 9-year-old kid, he was healthy. He was active in sports. He was, my buddy of mine, who was his dad, made sure that he ate some of the right things. Obviously, he's a 9-year-old kid, so he's going to eat his candy. He's going to have his cereal. But for the most part, he trained his kid to eat healthy and to stay active and to stay moving and to be a preventative person and not to think reactive, but to think proactive.
Right. And I definitely agree with you on that. A lot of people are getting irritated with this lifestyle, and they're wanting to change already with their doors being shut, when everything, and that's just going to continue to grow and grow as this thing plays out, however long it's going to play out. And we were actually just talking about this, and I firmly believe that when it bounces back, when everything comes back to normal and everyone's doors are able to open up, it's going to be the greatest time to be a wellness facility owner. It's going to be the best time, even for spas. Spas and salons. When they open up, it's going to have an amazing bounce back. I firmly believe that.
Yep, I agree.
And now, I hate to kind of play the devil's advocate, but what if this plays out for another 3 months? What if this goes on till like the end of summer? Are you guys doing anything to prepare for if it doesn't bounce back here in a month?
Corporately or at the center level?
Let's go ahead and do the center level.
So at the center level, I mean, realistically, the 2 locations that are staying open, they're flourishing. So we have 0 issues with that. I think we're just going to continue to work business as is. For the locations that are closed, if this goes on for at least more than another 30 or 45 days, we're probably going to push pretty hard with the officials in those cities to have those locations deemed to be open. We're kind of taking a seat back on all the closed locations. We're giving it through the month of April to see what the government does, to see how things change in the world. If this progresses through the middle of May or into the end of May, I think we'll start to get a little bit more aggressive on trying to get those locations back open and operational.
Right. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And I would highly recommend that you go and do that. What we're actually doing here with our partners is we're trying to find a way, because we work with cryotherapy centers and cryoslimming spas nationwide. So spas and wellness centers both have been deemed unessential. What we're looking to do and what we're working on, and I'm talking to different specialists every single day, we're trying to take the brick and mortar business outside of our partners' 4 walls. We're trying to take them online to where they can start making sales, start getting revenue in, just in case this doesn't bounce back at the estimated time. Everything keeps on getting pushed back. First it was 2 weeks, and then it was April, I think it was like April 15th or something like that, and now they're saying it's going to go until at least here, schools aren't going back until May 20th. That's when they're pushing back schools until then. So it's just to be prepared in case they keep pushing that date back, we want to make sure that we have not just one, but multiple streams of income for our partners. That way they can have their doors open virtually and be able to work and operate from home in a way that complies with, all the regulations, and, to where they don't have to be in their center. They don't have to have their doors open in order for them to still make money. And we're not just doing this as a Band-Aid for the coronavirus. This is going to be a model that anyone is going to be able to pick up and implement for their wellness center to continue on and just be an added revenue stream for when things go back to normal, if that makes sense.
Yep. No, 100%.
So obviously we can talk about this all day, but I'd like to, start wrapping it up here, as this is definitely going to be the longest episode in the COVID care package. Is there any final statements that you'd like to say to the audience about this whole situation? Anything that you'd like to say? The floor is yours.
Yeah, I think, one thing in closing, I've been doing this for as long as COVID has been out there. I don't know if it's been 5 or 6 months that the world's really known about it, but as business owners, as entrepreneurs, as leaders, as industry leaders in the cryotherapy and wellness space, we've got to stay positive. People are looking at us for hope. They're looking at us for answers. They're looking at us for something on the positive side, right? The media in the world is just consuming us with negativity right now. And I encourage everybody that's listening, everybody that owns a cryo center, everybody that's involved in the wellness industry itself, just to stay positive. Understand where people are coming from. Understand that you may affect somebody in one way or another by the words that you say. So just be very cautious about how you're talking with people, whether it's through social media or email or text. I'm a very in-person type of guy. I like to be face-to-face with people, and the old expression, press the flesh, right? I like to be in the same room as people. When you're texting or social media, things can be, construed the wrong way. So just always make sure that you're speaking things from the heart, always making sure you're making positive posts and putting positive energy out there. And so just the one thing I would love everybody to do is just stay positive, encourage people to do some research and education, and let's stand together as one unit, and let's move this cryotherapy industry in a positive direction.
I love it. I love it. I agree 100%. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Kyle, I'd like to thank you for joining us here. I wanted to thank you for showing some insight on how you guys are adapting to this situation, and your words of advice. And hopefully, a lot of people are going to take away some good pieces of value out of this interview. So I'd like to thank you for being here today.
Yeah, thank you for your time, brother.
No, yeah, absolutely. Take care.